I want to keep it that way.
Your voice is amazing, Ben.
No.
Your voice brings me great joy.
I just remember in middle
So
school.
bashful.
No.
No.
Tell me again.
No. But I do remember in middle school media lab being like, there was like a traumatic moment hearing my voice. Yeah. One of those weird things.
That's not me.
Yeah, right. No, I refuse to believe it. I sound like Batman.
Hello, my name is Megan Lubetkin, and I also work on the Nautilus. I am logging data, and I am the full package.
You can say that again.
Sultry voice not in the job description there either, but added bonus.
Definitely.
Buy one, get one free.
Huh.
This is Brandon's
And
fault.
we have now lost the back
we have lost the rest of the back row.
Alexis really is enjoying this.
Pulling it together here. My name is Holly Richards, and I am the resident science enthusiast in the van. And I work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and I'm out here representing the Pacific Remote Islands Marine National Monument. So we're the agency that manages, in partnership with NOAA, this expanse of ocean. So we're outside the monument right now, but we're in between Johnston Atoll and Baker and Howland. Both of those are national wildlife refuges and also part of the Pacific Remote Islands Marine National Monument, which is one of the largest protected marine areas on the planet.
And I am Alexis Weinig. I am the watch lead for this shift. I'm a deep sea ecologist, and I'm at Temple University. And we are still heading down to the seafloor. Still have about a little over an hour to go. So we will be in and out chatting, but also getting ourselves set up. So maybe not constant chatter. We'll see how it goes this morning.
All right, we have crossed 1,000 meters. Ben already knew that.
Terrain looks really cool, though.
Yeah.
Very neat map.
Yeah, and we'll be
You said that, and I
exploring
looked
this range
right
of
into the
this.
Hercs like Zeus, and I'm like, I can't see anything. I have no idea what you're talking about. We have at least another 1,000 meters to go.
That pelagic terrain is really something.
It's really easy to orient yourself in it, you know.
Yeah, it's all the landmarks.
Right, right.
Pretty cool, though. So that's little, looks like little cliff features.
Yeah, the summit of the Guyot is like really extensive, and then all the finer scale stuff around it. So I think this planned track is quite long. So
Yeah, it's like 6 kilometers.
yeah, maybe even more.
I think it's a little over 6,
Yeah.
but the idea is just to go until
We can go no more.
we can go no more. And likely we'll have some patches of less exciting terrain, so maybe we'll cover a little bit more than we normally do.
So I'm reading the dive plan right now. I'm just making sure I'm reading this right. We're collecting rocks, but not anything else.
No, that's not true. We're collecting everything like we normally
Did you
do.
and I read
Alexis
the
is
same
like, I
dive
want
plan?
Excuse
all
me.
the corals. Sorry, point of order, Chief. We will be taking all, not
We're
all
taking
the quarter.
everything.
Yeah.
Can I approach the bench?
Your Honor, please. If it so please the court, I would like coral.
Yes.
Oh, Holly, you'd be a fantastic lawyer.
Oh, man. I really would not.
I feel like you'd be a great TV lawyer. I would watch that
There
for
we
sure.
go. Now we're talking.
Is there a difference?
Holly McBeal, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Judge Holly.
I did not take my partner's name, but if I did, it would be Holly Huggins, which I think is a great television name.
That would be.
Right?
You
Yeah.
still have time.
I know. Sometimes I think about taking that name just because it's a great name. It's
Oh, it
like,
is.
I feel like doors would open for me
Yeah.
just with the name.
I feel like you would have your own action figure.
Right? Or a
Yeah.
children's book
Change your name,
series,
you
like,
get the phone call. Just like, yeah, we want you
Making
for a
your
movie.
deputy chief.
Exactly. We're going to base an entire, like, I feel like it really is like a children's book series, like an intrepid young, like, detective. Like Holly Huggins and, like,
Yeah.
the case of the mysterious cabinet.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
You could be
The
new
mysterious
Amelia
cabinet?
Bedelia.
Yeah, cabinet. I don't know. There's, like, a mystery about the cabinet. I don't
Some
know.
of the books are better than others.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we're just spitballing here, guys.
The high voltage cabinet,
That
right?
was not one of the best
Okay.
books.
I mean, it wasn't my best. No.
So Alexis, what are we expecting to see?
It should be similar to our previous dive, so this would have been some type of volcano-esque feature back in the day, so made of basalt, and then potentially have a carbonate cap. We'll see if it ever reached the shallow enough for corals to have formed in shallow water that would have left behind carbonate at the top of the guyot. And we'll be looking for coral and sponges like we have on our other dives.
Does the guyot indicate that it was once above the sea surface
Yeah.
interface? And
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we know
that's like the flat top
It's weathering.
is kind of indicating that it was above sea. It was in a subaerial environment and
Right.
likely has like indications of. That's why in the dive plan you'll see it's talking about looking for rounded cobbles or carbonate or
Carbonates, right.
things that would indicate that there could have been a coral reef or a beach or something like that. If it was a submarine volcano that never reached the surface, it would have maintained the top morphology.
So we're looking for a terrestrial animal skeleton.
Yeah, we're looking
Yeah.
for like forests and trees, perhaps some petrified
Wood,
wood.
yeah.
You know.
This sounds like a case for Holly Huggins.
She's busy with the cabinet,
on it.
so
Holly Huggins and the unexplored guyot.
Maybe it's a cabinet made out of petrified wood.
I mean, I feel like this came from like Lion the
Terrified
Witch.
wood. Holly liked that one.
And this is interesting because we're in international water, so we don't often get opportunities to do underwater exploration in international waters, largely because it's hard to get funding to do that type of research, but because our cruise area expands such a vast distance between Howland and Baker and Johnston Atoll, we figured we'd put a stop here in international waters to kind of, one, break up our transit so we're not sailing for days and days on end and people going crazy. Crazier, yeah. And then it gives us an opportunity to look at a community that is outside of a protected area. So we have a number of expeditions in the past that have been within Prim as well as in the Phoenix Islands protected area, and this time we have a chance to look at something that's technically not protected.
Yeah.
And see if we see differences in the community or any signs of fishing or anything like that.
It is kind of interesting when you look at, like, you know, you may think of a marine protected area like Prim as being like one large continuous chunk of ocean, but it's actually split up. So it's big chunks of ocean around these small islands and atolls that are supported by the ocean around it. And so it's kind of a neat thing to look at on the map, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, if people like were curious about Prim, would they just search like what would they search on the internet to look at a map?
That's a great question. Let me see exactly what the URL is. Because I know it in my head, how to get there. I mean, if you Google
There's a
Pacific Remote
jellyfish.
Islands Marine National Monument, it will
Yeah,
it'll pop
okay.
up that way. But it's over 400,000 square miles.
Thank you. No, I'm good.
Good.
We are expecting today's dive to start at around 3,000 meters, and we'll be working our way up to the top of the Guyot, which is about 1,300 meters. We have a 24-hour dive planned, so we got in the water around 4 a.m. local time, and we will be arriving at the seafloor in probably about an hour. And then continuing on our trek, we are trying to cover about 6 kilometers today on the seafloor.
So Alexis, you said that usually the seafloor and international waters aren't surveyed as much for maybe funding purposes. Is there an expectation of what we might see? Is like any like nets, or is there?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for like especially when we get to the top of the Guyot and the evidence of trawling. I think it might be a little bit deep, but I'm not positive. And then just keep an eye out for evidence of fishing gear. Again, I've never actually explored an international seamount or Guyot before, so we'll see if we see any signs that are different from what we've been seeing in the protected area.
Roger.
Do we know how large the cap is?
So the top of the Guyot is roughly 6 nautical miles wide, so pretty large.
Nice. Thank you. Here's Thank you.
Yep. Only effectively 2 high points between. So it's got to be this or Howland, effectively. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, Lord.
Science, what's your ideal sample?
What do you mean?
Like if you could sample one thing.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I can't be limited to one sample.
That's why it's called your ideal sample. It's not your everyday sample. Like what would be the most, basically what would be the most exciting thing that we could see on this dive?
A nautilus. We've already talked about
That's
this.
true. But I don't know. I feel like I have to go outside of coral here because coral's too expected.
Oh.
Probably like a really cool squid that we could suction sample.
Ah, so it's the act of the sample as opposed to the sample itself.
It's both. It's the combo.
Oh.
I like suction sampling things out of the water column. It's fun.
Yeah, that's a good challenge.
It's fun for me. Yeah, I don't know if it's fun for you guys.
No, it is.
Not fun for the squid.
It's fun, but you know, like at least when there is a bottom, you have some kind of depth perception. Here you have no depth perception.
Yeah.
The best that we have for depth perception is you can watch the lasers get closer together.
Alexis, how many oceanographic expeditions have you done?
This is my 10th.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been sailing on about 3 a year for the last couple of years, so
Oh, that sounds awesome.
spending a lot of time at sea. Yeah, it's been great.
Have you met Mark?
No, yeah, no. I mean, yes. I understand there are many people who sail more than I do.
For those listening in, Mark is our, well, I guess he's the deck chief for the launch and recovery of the vehicles or anything else that goes over the side of the ship, and he has been the only person who had launched these vehicles up until 2015, where he was sick for a week.
Yeah.
And the vehicles are teenagers, so that gives you an idea of.
Data? Yeah, I think. Oh.
Wait.
Sorry.
Where are you pointing to this somewhere? Oh, okay. Give me a tour. Oh, I see. I'm looking at plan now. Yeah, plan. I see. So they didn't get the north side though? I see. Okay.
I'm catching up.
But you think that they probably got to like relatively similar contour on the north side, it's just not processed.
I wonder how fast I'm going.
Let me know if you want me to slow.
I want to see this
No,
whole
I'm
thing
catching up.
all pretty together.
Wow, I hit a raw vertical of 40.
Ben, well, speaking
that?
about
I
maps,
hit a raw vertical
is it possible
of 40.
to see the before and after, and does any of this information get released
Yeah, I'm not
to
sure
the public?
if HiPAC is on the satellite. So if
Can't
it
we-
is, yeah, I can.
Yeah, we'll just wait for Marley
We'll
to
wait
come
for
back.
Marley to come back, and then we can put it up.
Yeah.
Abandoned by video.
But
Video
yeah,
levels.
satellite altimetry, it's like you basically are using a sea surface height mean,
Right,
multiple passes, many passes with satellite. And so that essentially that variation in the sea surface height, while it tells you the bathymetry, what you get is like a heavily gridded or interpolated look. So it's really smoothed. So we kind of have a little bit of an egg shape from the altimetry. And when you look at actually mapping it, we see, oh, this is a geode with a summit that's somewhat triangular. And so from that, those harsh edges get smoothed out into circular features in the altimetry. So only when we
22 knots of wind.
really do
1.2
shipboard
current.
surveys with a multi-beam, are we able to really say, oh, this is a geode, this is what this feature actually is.
It's supposed to get worse.
I think that when people talk about how unexplored
If you want, I can slow it on the winch.
oceans are, a lot of what
Doesn't
we're
look
saying
like that
is
got its knee.
we don't know what the geology is from
Well, the tension didn't get that high.
anything besides
No.
the altimetry. So
I wonder what that was.
beyond all the
No,
other
the noise
aspects
was
in
the
which
jet
it's
pump.
unexplored.
Probably sucking air. Jess, did Marley ask you a question before she left?
I think that's between you and me now, I guess.
That is. There's a good chance nobody's there.
Yeah, so when we do one of these dives on a site that has only been freshly mapped by the shipboard multi-beam, what we have to do is we have to take that data, clean out all these kind of outlying points and all the kind of noise, and put together a gridded, what's called like a geotiff. So it's a TIFF, like an image, like a raster, a matrix of values indicating depth, but geo being its geospatially referenced, so each of those grids has a lat long associated with a UTM coordinate system, a projection of this part of the world. And so when we're doing the survey and we want to get coverage of the dive site well, but we also want overall coverage for posterity, and then we have to dive right away. Sometimes we'll do a really nice map of the dive region and later get together a more finalized product.
And where's the end location of the data? Like, how does it get disseminated to other research groups or?
So there's a repository, GMRT. I can only guess at the acronym right now, but it's kind of this global repository of all survey data. And so when you're going and planning an expedition, you can query the GMRT server and basically look at what has been mapped beyond altimetry data. Let me pull that, and each of these maps is variable, right? So at the end of the day, your product, like I said, is kind of gridded. Like you put it into cells and you take a mean to get, because you're not going to take every single little ping that's very noisy. So you decide this map is really high resolution. It was shallow. We did it with this high resolution sensor. Maybe we'll do it at 40-meter grids. So there's this kind of variable resolution in all that repository data. And so you're pulling from all these kind of diverse sources. So a lot of the times when we're planning transits, we might adjust our lines a little to complement existing survey data to kind of keep expanding upon existing data. And one of the previous seamounts, for instance, just one small portion of the site has been mapped. So we plan our survey around the data that existed to kind of expand the coverage there. But yeah, each of these survey projects are essentially a contribution to a global understanding of what is the seafloor looking like. So for instance, this geo actually, and the charts are kind of the most final form of the product, because for safety you want a navigational chart to really be indicative of hazards and other stuff. So in the chart it said it comes to a shallowest point of about 1,200 meters, but there was a single beam echo sounder track just on the summit that indicated it came up in this really narrow feature to 20 meters, which is somewhat unbelievable. And it turned out to be unbelievable because it wasn't real.
Truly unbelievable.
Truly unbelievable. So we were hoping for like a chimney or something on the top of this or something. But yeah, so either their calibration was completely bonkers, or they were tracking a school of fish under the ship that was 20 meters away, or no idea.
Their calibration would have to be like super bonkers.
Super bonkers. Maybe it was like centimeters to meter type thing or something. So.
Somebody's just really tired when they recorded it.
Yeah, I think
They're
so.
like 20 meters.
I like the school of fish theory.
Yeah.
It happens though.
Yeah.
If you have a really big school of fish.
Yeah, and it's a single beam.
Yeah.
So you're basically only getting one geometric chance at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One little cone. But it was weird because the way that a data appeared was these even contours outward. So, you know, it was a summit-looking feature on this apparent summit. So, oh well. We had a betting game, right?
There was a
Yeah, we had a
competition.
Yeah. Whoever did the deepest.
The deepest one, because
who's the most pessimistic?
I think it was Rennie.
Was it?
330.
Yeah.
Which still is not even close.
No.
I was thinking about putting 1,000, but I wanted to.
But you didn't.
To make it harder for Colleen, so I just did two adjacent to hers.
A question I got recently actually referred to
Yeah, let's speed back up.
the
Whatever
last
we
couple
were in,
seamounts
we're
that we saw that had this kind of symmetry in the ridges. Do we know why we get that, you know, kind of?
Oh, like the X shape
Yeah.
of the last one?
I'm not exactly sure why it was so perfect, like a T, but likely there are slides, like if you think of a cone kind of building up from volcanic activity over time, there's going to likely be slides, which is kind of eroding it down into a different shape. And I think that probably those ridges are what's left of the stronger parts. But yeah, I don't totally know why it would be a T. I haven't seen that very often, so symmetrical.
But they tend to be a little like, you don't have two ridges on one side, usually in one.
Yeah.
Or like this one's a little like tripod, so it's symmetrical around that axis.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's more like what falls off the ridge, off the sides of the ridge is deposited down slope. I see. I thought it was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the angle is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so we have a good sense of like what it looks like when volcanoes form subaerially. Do we have a good sense of like the forces that are shaping underwater volcanoes?
Yeah, I mean, it's really dependent on a lot of different things. So, what kind of eruption is actually happening? So, are we having something that's effusive or explosive? So, something that's kind of like flowing more calmly or gently versus erupting more violently, and this is going to determine, the kind of volcanic products that are coming out of the eruption, which will be shaping the morphology of the seamount. And there's a whole variation of different eruptive styles in the submarine and subaerial environment. So it's not like just one sort of rule that's defining how submarine volcanoes are being built, but it's really dependent on a whole lot of different things, and the depth as well, of course, and the viscosity of the lava flow. But yeah, getting kind of like a time series sort of idea, maybe that's more of what you're kind of wondering. People often study like specific sites, and go back to them frequently to study how they're changing. So there are a few sites that have been monitored over a while, and how active volcanism is changing those sites. But also looking at chains of like seamounts and seeing how the most active one, the shape of that is comparing with other neighboring seamounts in a chain, looking at morphology and volume and the distribution of volcanic products and things like that. Those are all ways that we can study the sort of geologic evolution of a volcanic system.
I guess my question was more like when we're looking at the subaerial volcanics, we know what processes resulted in various morphologies. So we can look at the shape of it and understand the processes that created that. And so I guess I was wondering, do we have that same level of understanding for submarine volcanoes?
Okay. Yeah, I think we do to a pretty good extent. So you mean like looking at the products and saying like, this is how those products were. Yeah. Okay. Yes, definitely. And in fact, like that's kind of really helpful because they're these eruptions are happening underwater, and they're pretty much almost never observed while they're actually going on. I mean, there are a few exceptional cases of that where we have video footage of some submarine eruptions, but that's very, very rare. So mostly in terms of how we're determining how an eruption, it's really a detective process. So looking at the volcanic products is a primary part of deciphering how things were erupted. So yeah, we can look at a pillow basalt or volcanic sand or tephra and look at it either on a sort of macro or micro morphology and get a sense for how the eruption was, how it was going at the time. And it can be a whole range. It's not just one kind of eruptive style always. A lot of these eruptions are having multiple different simultaneous styles of effusive and eruptive processes. That's not uncommon. But basically when you see pillow lava, you can think of something a bit more calm and effusively flowing. When you see volcanic sand, you can think of something a little bit more explosive or eruptive as a general rule, and often we see both of those together. Sometimes not, but yeah.
Megan, it's kind of crazy to think about those, like, I don't know, the really kind of violent, explosive volcanic eruptions that we think of on terrestrial volcanoes. I mean, is it physically possible for those sort of like a pyroclastic eruption to happen underwater? It just seems like the pressure or the depth of the water wouldn't make it possible to have a really violent eruption.
Yeah, Marley, I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
It's totally possible, and we have video footage of it happening, actually.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah, there's very, very, very little footage out there of submarine volcanic eruptions. It's just very rare to be there at the right time, of course.
Yeah.
We do use hydrophones to some extent, and there are ways that we can kind of listen to the volcanic eruptions and get a sense for maybe where something would be happening, and people can follow up. Of course, if you have something like what just happened near us, like a pumice raft or an indicator that's on the sea surface that there was an eruption on the sea floor, so some sort of buoyant class like pumice, or these weird cases like lava balloons, which I was just studying. Those are great indicators that there's something happening below, but yeah, it's pretty rare.
Do you know what the percentage of all the volcanoes on our planet, how many like roughly are underwater versus on land?
About 70%.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, there's like a ton that are underwater.
No
Yeah.
way.
Oh yeah,
Like most of them.
Ben's laughing because the oceans cover 71% of the surface of the earth. So it's kind of a cop-out answer.
Got it.
But no, of course, yeah. I mean, the world's longest like mountain range,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah.
is like the mid-ocean ridge, which is a volcanic ridge system, and there's tons and tons of volcanoes underwater, tons. Yeah. So I mean, if you're a volcanologist and you want to understand volcanism on Earth, you need to be looking at volcanism underwater as well, because most of the volcanism is happening there.
Says the underwater volcano.
Yeah, of course. I'm a little partial, but
And there's no like continental crust interaction that's going to result in subduction or anything other than that one type, really, right?
sorry, so you mean there's no, what do you mean exactly?
Like the interaction between a continental crust and an oceanic crust.
Yeah, it's going to be subduction, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
can be
totally.
a little more, I don't know. Does
Yeah.
that tend to be more, I know that that's where you get a lot of earthquakes, but
Oh,
does
yeah.
it tend to be more exposing magma than
Yeah,
other-
it's a different process than like hotspots and hotspot volcanism and volcanism at mid-ocean ridges or seafloor spreading sites. But subduction definitely is one of the tectonic plate movements that can cause volcanism for sure.
Because you just have more diversity of plate interactions.
Sorry?
'Cause I'm just wondering if then you have more diversity of plate interactions in an ocean setting than on a terrestrial setting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
'Cause you
totally.
only
Yes, yes. That's
Density
exactly right.
differences between the plates and the...
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I understand now your question. Yeah, there are some pretty cool spots where we can see the mid-ocean ridge coming up onto land. I think Iceland is like one of the most iconic ones where you can actually see this incredible process of two plates spreading apart on land.
Have you been to Iceland?
I have.
Have you been to that spot?
I have. I've been in between the two
Nice.
plates. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's so cool. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I can't hear you, Ben.
Yeah. Ben's always really quiet.
I'm just going to go on SBM.
Oh.
Is there value to heading to the launch waypoint first?
No.
Okay, great. So we're just going to head straight to that.
Yeah,
particular
go to
ridge.
waypoint 1.
Great,
That's
thank you.
fine. It was just there for like, for in case it was easier to land.
Yeah, on that little
Yeah.
sliver. Got it. I know. Well, and it's coming up, so we're not as far off as last time.
Right, yeah, we've actually had some rather intriguing moments where I couldn't hit 30 meters a minute at 100% verts, and times where I'm going over 30 meters a minute at 40% verts.
Oh.
So you want to talk about different currents, potential upwelling.
Right.
Yeah.
So your improvements or the other day to kind of fix up the hydraulics, is that improving all, like, ability to thrust?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
You're
was.
noticing it?
Yeah, we replaced the hydraulic pump on Hercules, which is the pump is run by a motor. The motor is running at full 3-phase, 2,000 plus volts, and so we were having some hydraulic pressure issues and decided to change out the pump. As a result, we're no longer having the hydraulic pressure issues, so I can run multiple thrusters at a time without having, you know, like a massive decrease in system pressure.
Wow.
Yeah, in essence, it was heart surgery.
It was done on a pretty quick turnaround, too. Is that scary?
No.
It was spare pump.
Yeah.
Spare motor.
You know, this cruise has been weird. We'll usually turn around the vehicles in 4 hours from recovery to the next launch. That way it's always on a watch change. And on this cruise, we've been kind of really taking it slow. One watch will get Argus, the next watch will get Hercules, the next watch will take care of high voltage and like the setting up the deck. And so it's been just a different experience. And we were okay to keep diving with the vehicle as it was, but we had the time, and so we took advantage of it. And that'll just make it better for the rest of the season. You know, it's everybody who's piloting it will have to be less frustrated. I do kind of want to take apart that pump, though.
Yeah. See what's going on in that.
Yeah, because, let's see, Jess and I took numbers with this pump and with the prior pump, and like what the system pressure was when we were running different thrusters. And with this pump, we never dropped below, we usually run around 2.9, just under 3,000, and we never dropped below, what, 2.850?
Yep.
And on the other one, we were getting down to like 2.3. So we were having a real drop in system pressure, therefore dropping our abilities to do anything.
That's really influential, though, for if you have multiple thrusters. So if you have multiple thrusters going at the same time, and if you have too much of a drop in your main system pressure, then
you're doing a lot of work for nothing.
Yeah, you won't be able to actually propel yourself. Yeah, it won't be very successful at that point. So it's actually quite nice. As Greg is saying, now we have pretty stable numbers around like 2850 PSI. And so that'll mean that we'll be able to thrust better, if you will, or propel ourselves.
Yeah.
We anticipate in a much
Which is good, because if
smoother.
there's currents, then you know you have a better chance of dealing with them instead of getting blown off. You can go uphill and forward faster, so it's good for safety reasons, and And you can cover more ground at a faster speed, so
Yeah.
makes everybody happy.
Got to return shadow. So what are we
Return
at?
shadow. Yeah.
So probably like 2.7 then.
So nobody's right.
No one's right.
So when I check multi-beam, I don't know when they last stopped pinging, but it did say 257, I think. 2570, something like that.
Okay.
So I don't know where they got this launch number from.
Roger.
Yeah. Just didn't want to keep on throwing out numbers that I was unsure of.
What's that?
I just didn't want to keep on throwing out numbers that I was unsure of.
No worries. I'll like at the porch. Bring us home. Roger.
You think
Oh,
we're
switching?
about 200 meters. Oh. Ooh. Do you mind if I see the sound speed just quick? Or the sound speed?
Oh, sorry.
Sensors? Oh no. All right, we're getting there.
1497. Yeah.
One of the things that's always hard to take into account when it comes to launching and can the ship hold position is that even if we can hold position and we can move now, if you put 3,000 meters of cable in the water, that's a massive sea anchor.
Yeah. It's true.
That's being pulled on by the currents in whatever direction.
Is it still blowing at 25 knots?
We're about 20.
Yeah,
Okay.
the currents picked up a little.
I don't know if it holds water, but the there's an old belief that the wind always dies down a little bit around sunrise.
Oh, because you reduce the gradient a little bit. Right?
Hmm?
Huh?
Oh no. Trying to think why that would be. Because your sea surface temperature is going to be usually warmer than the air, right? Because it holds heat better.
I don't know. I've never
I don't know.
Whatever.
I've never thought about it more than
Right.
just
The
knowing
practical
that you know,
knowledge
like, yeah.
is useful enough.
All right, I'd believe that it's a real return.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I think maybe they pulled the 299 off the dive plan and the multi-beam.
Hmm?
I think they pulled the 299 off the dive plan then.
Well, looks like it's going to be more around like 2660. You can math, right? Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good.
No, I can't math right. That's that's 2600.
So Ben, based on Price is Right rules, do I win this round?
Let me think. Yes.
Oh.
Or we both lose.
What was
That's
what was your
You
guess?
lose.
Oh, I had said that it was the depth in the chart,
Yeah.
and he said it was the depth on the beginning of the dive plan.
I see. And the depth on the chart was 2567.
2567.
Well, I had assumed that they took it from the new map, but
Yeah.
I was gonna guess $1 and
Trust but verify.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna wake someone up for that.
Wow, 3 Doppler beams.
yeah,
Ooh.
87 off. Must be a good feature if that's getting us a 110 return. Almost got 4 beams. Wow. Cool.
All right, I'm changing the sub-on profiler to 100 meters.
Roger.
And I will come to a stop at 50 off bottom.
Roger.
Your Z bias down and stick lock forward. No autos.
Roger that.
Joy gain 80.
Roger. I have visual contact with the bottom.
Wow. All right. Hooray, slope.
Is that sea floor I see?
Yep.
that
I
is
see
sea
slope.
floor.
We made it. So we're closer to
Yay.
2,600 than 3,000.
All right, Jess, I'm going to come do an all stop
Roger.
here.
Yeah, I'll stop.
Delta's 2.
So we are approaching the bottom at a previously unexplored,
I'm
unmapped
at about 50 meters.
Roger.
underwater guyot in international
Back and
waters
back
between
and forth,
Howland and
yeah.
Baker and Johnston Atoll. We're going to get set up and then we will continue our track up. We're starting at about 2,550 meters and we'll be working our way towards the top of the guyot, which is approximately 1,300 meters.
Roger.
Just let me know when you're ready to white balance.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna get the vehicle set up. Alright. Yeah. Camera back, camera back. Alright, I think you might have enough scope there. Yeah. Nice. All right. Ready to acquire bottom a little bit more? Get some more light. Roger, going down.
Just interesting rock formations.
So guyots are underwater, basically underwater mountains that used to be volcanoes. Are they, by definition, they were subaerial at some point, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have a flat
Roger.
Yes.
top because of that.
Yeah.
Yes. The flat top is indicative of erosion from wave action. And then
Look how bubbly it looks.
it does look very bubbly.
Oh. What?
One might say it's perhaps botryoidal.
Botryoidal.
Wow.
Wow.
Is that our Sesame Street word of the day is botryoidal?
I think it's our word of the cruise.
Yeah.
I probably won't be able to say it until the end of the cruise.
I think you got it, Alexis.
I won't be able to say it until it takes. I need to hear Megan say it once each day, and then I can do it.
Yeah. And sometimes she likes to try out new variations. Botryoidal.
I'm excited for the day you just drop it in conversation.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
We'll be at lunch. And
I
it'll
will
be like,
definitely be using it in our supplementary article to follow up about this cruise.
All right.
Multiple times I'll use
Go ahead,
botryoidal.
Yep.
If you already have to use it already.
There's a Y in there. That Y
There
helps
is.
me.
The Y is crucial.
So, looking at the peak depth, though, can you explain, if this was at some point
Are you off auto
above
X?
water, how did
Yep,
it get
off auto
to
X.
such a depth, and how long would that have taken?
I'm not actually sure about how long it would have taken, but yeah, it's a really good question about how they got below sea level, and over time there would be kind of like a subsidence, moving away from as the volcanic action is or the plate is moving away from a hotspot.